everybody. Welcome to another episode of BookGoodies Author Series of podcasts. I'm your host, Deborah Carney, and today I have guest author, Nancy. Hi, Nancy. How you doing?
I'm great, Deborah. How about you?
I'm a little warm here in New York City, but we're dealing with it. I'm having a great time. For people who've been listening a lot, we've been doing like a podcasting marathon with authors, and I'm loving every minute of it because you guys all have something new and different than the other guy did, and I'm learning a lot just from listening to you. So why don't you introduce yourself and tell the people a little bit about your background and what your current project is.
Great. Well, my name is Nancy Sayles, and I am in real life a book publicist and also in recent years an author. My first book was entitled Baby, An Owner's Manual, and that was done by Traditional Publishing a number of years ago, and we had 2 editions on that book. And then these days I'm working on a book entitled Weighty Issues, Getting the Skinny on Weight Loss Surgery, which I wrote with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Scott Cunneen, who is director of bariatric surgery at Cedars-Sinai Medical Center here in Los Angeles. So he's a pretty heavy hitter in that field. Mm-hmm. And so he's my expert, and we're pretty excited about this new book.
Who came up with the title?
Oh, guilty.
I love that title. That title is awesome.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. We had some fun with it. The book is done in Q&A format with really easy to understand language, no medical jargon, so that people who are thinking about embarking on this life-changing situation will have all the information that they need. This is really sitting down with somebody who really knows this subject cold, like you're sitting down with him in his office across the desk. You can ask him anything. And I did, and he answered, and we have a book.
Yeah, and that's really interesting. It's an interesting topic because there's so much going on in our country now with, body awareness and, dietary changes, bad diets, and, people are overweight more than they have been in any other time in our history. And I know a lot of people think that the weight loss surgery is a, gastric bypass is an easy answer. And yet they need to understand that for it to work, there's a lot that goes along with it, and that it creates other, like you said, it's life-changing because there are other life-altering things that you have to do to go along with that.
I think that's probably the biggest myth that we have to bust in talking about this subject or this book, is that weight loss surgery is somehow the easy way out. I swear to God, that's not true.
Yeah.
What it is, and there are 3 actually 3 procedures that we talk about in the book, one is the gastric band or lap band, one is the gastric bypass that you mentioned, and the third is a newer procedure that is gaining popularity called the sleeve gastrectomy. And these are not the easy way out. These are not the quick fixes. These are the tools that help us reach the goals that we need to reach to maintain or regain our health. Okay. Most of the people who go through these programs have some sort of medical condition that goes along with obesity. Mm-hmm. The doctors call them comorbidities. I think that term should be stricken from the language. That is as depressing as it comes.
I know. It sounds like I'm morbid. I'm going to die.
That's right. Well, I got to tell you, the people that they call morbidly obese, mm-hmm. I never thought that I would fit into that category, but at one time, evidently, mm-hmm. I did. But I did go through the surgery, and which is really how this book came into being. This this doctor, handed me somewhere between 7 and 10 years of additional life expectancy.
Wow.
And so I can't repay that.
Right.
I offered him my firstborn, but he met him. He didn't want him. So I was actually at an appointment with him, and we were through with the procedure that I was having done that day. And I said, "Are you all done?" And he said, "Yeah." I said, "Well, I'm not. Sit down."
Nice.
And he did. The doctor sat down, and I said, "If there's a book here, and if you don't do it, somebody else will."
Yeah, you might as well be the expert, and let's go through this. And I'm sure you explain the things that you need to do post-surgery to make sure that you don't go back to how you were pre-surgery.
Absolutely. It's a complete change of lifestyle. It is a complete change of one's relationship with food, which is, really strong relationship in our lives.
Yeah.
They ask you all these questions. They do all these assessments before you have surgery, and they say, "What kind of an eater are you? Do you eat when you're sad? Sure. Do you eat when you're happy? Yeah. Do you eat when you're bored? Often." And what it came down to was that I just enjoyed food.
Right.
I call myself a social eater.
Okay.
All of my social engagements revolve around food.
Food, yeah.
Let's go to lunch. You want to have breakfast? Where are we going for dinner?
Mm-hmm.
Everything has to do, you meet people, it has to have food involved. And that's just a lifestyle thing.
Yep.
Well, I go out for a lot of coffee now.
I was going to say, you go out for coffee, let's have a Danish, let's do this, let's do that. But instead now you're just like, you really do just drink the coffee. And
well, and I'm limited to 1 cup of those per day, and that was by special dispensation. They really don't want you to have a lot of caffeine, so I told the doc, you don't want to know me without a cup of coffee in the morning. And so he okayed 1 cup, and I've stuck to that for 3 years. So I'm really pretty excited. And I have to tell you that being no spring chicken, I've never been healthier in my life. I'm at the gym every single morning of my life. At 3:30 in the morning, I'm at the gym.
Wow.
I know it's crazy. I know I hear it all the time, but that's the time of day when I really don't have any excuses.
Right. And is it because you stay up that late or because you get up that early?
I get up that early.
Okay.
And, because I'm an independent in what I do and I work on my own, I have the luxury of coming home and grabbing another hour or two.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I do. And there are probably a dozen of us or so that have met, through the gym and being there every day for many years, that we become friends. We become gym friends.
Yeah.
And we're there and we cheer each other on and we support each other, and it was a good habit to get into.
Yep. And you built your own little support group.
Totally.
Which is really nice, because you got to be dedicated people to be at the gym at 3:30 in the morning. And like you said, though, people who have a busy, hectic schedule, are going to be people that that's what time they go. And it's really funny because I'm a late night person. I'm not a morning person. Mm-hmm. And I'll be saying good night while other people I know that also live on the East Coast are like, they're just getting up and they're hitting the gym at like 4 a.m. or they're going for a run or, something like that before the rest of the family gets up and before they have to start their work day. So kudos to all of those folks. I'm a walker. I can walk. Good. I can walk. I don't go to the gym and work out, but I can walk. I can walk really, really far as long as I don't have to walk fast and I don't have to walk too much uphill.
Well, I was recently in New York City, and I was very pleased that I could actually walk places.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Without being winded. You know, I could actually not only go down the steps to the subway, but I can go up the steps.
I know. That
was
when you
something
know.
I could have done a couple of years ago.
Yep. That's when you know you've got a problem, is when you can't walk up the stairs. And, you know, they're daunting to you, and you're looking at them, and you like, get out your inhaler, because, you know, you can't make it to the top.
That's right.
So, all right. Now, in addition to being a very interesting book that you're doing, you've been traditionally published, and you're self-publishing this book. And can you give us some of the reasoning behind that?
Oh, Deborah, we don't call it self-publishing anymore.
Oh, really?
We call it independent publishing.
Oh, I'm sorry. You are correct. It's indie publishing. Because self-publishing was, and I understand exactly what you're saying, and some of our listeners may not, because they may be the younger generation that doesn't remember vanity publishing.
Oh, Vanity Press, absolutely.
Yeah. So back in the day, there were two ways to get published, which was traditional publishers, and if a traditional publisher turned you down, you could go to a vanity press, which was not a print-on-demand company like we're all used to now. It was a publishing company that you would pay to print your book, and the minimum order would be like 500 copies. And you would put those books in your garage.
Exactly.
And you would sell them out of your garage. You would go on websites or whatever, go in person, go to book fairs.
Oh, this was way before websites.
Yeah, there were no websites to go on. So you like would get your books, and you would take them out, and you would, you'd physically mail them to people when they ordered them from you, and you would do direct mail to sell them, and there was no publishing house support at all. And then with the evolution of the internet, there was still vanity presses, but then all of a sudden there was this new group of publishers, which are, the Lulus, the Smashwords, the Create Space, I think the innovators were Lulu, Cafe Press, and Create Space. And Create Space had a different name back then that I'm totally blanking on right now. But when they started, they were the pioneers, where they actually allowed you to get, like, you could put your book online, and people could buy it, and you didn't have to house it, and you could buy it one copy at a time. And that's what we're talking about for indie publishing, and also there's a lot of small publishing houses. So why don't you tell us who you picked and why?
Well, we decided to independently publish this for a couple of reasons. First of all, I had been in touch with a lot of my publishing contacts. I had, because I've been in the business for a long time, I could get to major editors and publishers. And so I could get sort of a read back as to whether or not I would have the possibility of a sale. Mm-hmm. With this particular subject, I had publishers telling me that the audience was too small.
Yep.
And now there are 200,000 people having weight loss surgery every year.
Yeah, that's not small.
A whole lot more who are considering it, and then don't wind up having it at any given time. So I don't consider that a small market, but some of the bigger houses did. One particular very big house, the publisher told me that I would have "I told you so" privileges. Oh. So I told him I'd get back to him.
Nice.
When I sold a whole bunch of copies. But there was last year when we had the book in preparation, the one offer I did get was for publication in the I think it was the spring of 2013, and we were still the middle of 2011. I said no, thank you. We were going to be done with the book way ahead of that, and we wanted it out in the marketplace. So we decided to become our own little publisher. We are the Smiling Irish Press.
I love it.
Well, I got a doc who graduated from Notre Dame, and I call him the Smiling Irishman. So what the heck? We decided to do it ourselves. I wanted to do it myself this time because I wanted the ultimate control. And by the way, not all independent publishing is print on demand. There are still, short-run houses all over the place where you do buy 500 or 1,000 or 5,000, and there are plenty of books in plenty of garages.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want to do that.
Right.
I didn't want to have books in my garage. This doctor didn't want to have books in his garage. So we decided to go print on demand through a company called Lightning Source.
Okay.
I'm sure you talked about that in the past, which is attached to the largest book wholesaler in the country, Ingram Book Company. So we decided to go that route. I wanted control, Deborah. I wanted to name the book. I wanted to design the cover.
Yep.
Wanted to have it executed to my liking.
Yep.
I wanted to handle the writing and the editing, and if I needed outside help, which I did at one point, that was also going to be my choice. I wanted to control the design of the book.
Right.
I wanted to control what it looked like. And so I worked very closely with a designer who probably wants me to lose his phone number at this point. But, where I could say, I think that that font is a little large. I'd like to see it come down a couple of points.
Right.
And so, are you sure the gutter is wide enough?
Yes.
So I really micromanaged this from beginning to end. This is the book I wanted to write. This is the book I wanted the doctor to have to walk down the halls of the hospital, cover out. Yep. I got what I wanted, and this is the way to do it. But I think that there are some things that people who are considering independently publishing have to remember, and that's just because you have an idea for a book, doesn't make you Hemingway. I'm a big believer in allowing people to do what it is they know how to do.
Right.
So I'm not going to sit down and open up my little graphics program and design a cover. I did a mock-up. Mm-hmm. I did kind of a graphic sketch. Kind of this is a starting point. This is what I want. But in no way did I think it was going to be anything resembling final. I let somebody who does that for a living do it. Right.
But you were in control.
I was in control. I got. We tweaked that cover till the cows came home. Until we got something that we liked.
But there wasn't a third person involved, like the traditional publishing. There wasn't a third person involved saying, no, we want the cover to be this. It was you and the designer deciding how you wanted it to be.
I did a mock-up. I did a mock-up for the revised edition of my first book. Because I had an idea of what I wanted the cover to be. I did not like the first cover, mm-hmm. and I said, "Here's an idea that I'm thinking of, in terms of the second cover." And the publisher said to me, "I hate this." And I told him, "Don't beat around the bush. Just tell me what's on your mind.
Tell me what you think."
And he had an artist that he works with, send me the next draft. And I called him back and I said, "I hate this." And I said, "By the way, who's paying for this?"
Yeah.
He said, "I am," meaning him.
Yeah.
I said, "Then I love it." I don't have a vote.
Yeah, exactly.
If it's his checkbook, And, if you're dealing with a traditional publisher, it is their checkbook. That's what they do for a living. Chances are for new writers, their choices are going to be better.
Yeah.
But that doesn't mean that we don't have any input.
Right.
So I had 2 books come out, or 2 editions of the same book come out with covers that I couldn't stand.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I figured that this time I would have the control.
Right.
So, the taste is my taste. Is it perfect? No. I'm actually looking to have it revised. I have some ideas on how to revise it for the next edition. We are working on a revision even as we speak of the book, because there's so much new information. We don't want it to be out of date.
Yeah.
That's another point about independent publishing, by the way, Deborah. When information, if you're dealing in nonfiction stuff and new information becomes available,
you got to change it.
Yeah.
You got to be able to give your publisher a new copy and have them be able to update it for you right away. And like you said about the publishing in 2013, you finished the book and you're already doing a revision. If you had to wait until 2013, everything would have been outdated.
Would have been absolutely useless. So that's another reason that I'm very glad that I went this route. Then, so I had all of these questions and answers in a Word file, and I printed everything out, and I took it to an editor friend of mine, mm-hmm. and I said, this is the only way that I can figure out I got to figure out how to organize this material, and the only thing I can think to do is to sit down on my living room floor and lay out all the pages.
Right.
I said, so I don't want to do that, so I'm going to come to your house
and lay them all out on your floor.
And use your living room floor. And that's exactly what I did. And, she was excellent. She took a look at it and said, oh, you need sections. Yep. Here, this goes with this goes with that, put this over here. And in a couple of hours, I had an organized book.
Yep, because you went to someone who knew what they were doing.
Oh my God! I when I think of having done that without her, I would have been tearing my hair out.
Mm-hmm.
This that's the way that went. I think that what writers have to realize is that everybody has their own little niche.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to getting the material together and what is it going to be, and it's so important to find out who is your audience and how are you going to gear this material to people who are going to be interested in it. And there is something very heady about having the control and opening that box when that first order comes.
Right.
And see, having worked for a publisher many years ago for a number of years, I had the pleasure of giving authors that experience.
Yes, opening the book.
Here's the first carton of books.
Yep.
And you open it up, and they were always just so thrilled. Well, I got to tell you, when my first carton of books came, I understood.
Yep. Yeah, and it's the same way when I published most of my books to Kindle first, simply because I actually like reading them on my Kindle, and I do a lot of nonfiction, and I also am a professional photographer. So I like the fact that I can carry all my photography books on my Kindle. And I also like that they're all in full color. And I was afraid, actually, to even approach loading a book up to CreateSpace because I know how much full-color books cost in the past. I worked for CafePress.com for a while, and I was really familiar with Lulu.com. And I knew that, coffee table books or books with full-color pages of any kind were extremely expensive. And I held back. And when I put my first book up on CreateSpace, I was surprised at how little it cost. And once I put it up there, the very first one, you don't let it go to press without getting a proof copy.
Right.
And when I got that very first proof copy in the mail, I got the book, I got the box, and I'm like, it's from CreateSpace. And I sliced it open, and there was my book. And it looked wonderful.
Oh.
And it was like, you can't replicate that. And my boyfriend did the same thing this past week. He had a book on Kindle, and he finally decided that the website that he created the book for is about classic cars. And his demographic, and this goes to knowing your audience and being in control, his demographic was older men that don't know what a Kindle is and don't care. They're still out there with their wrenches working on their engines. They're working on classic cars, and they have no clue about computerized anything, and they don't want to know. All they know is they go to this website and they get this newsletter, and it's very interesting to them, and they love it. So when he put out the Kindle book, he sold a couple copies, and then people were like, "Well, where can I get a real version?" So after a month, we finally said, all right, let's get this up on CreateSpace. He sent out the newsletter and he sold copies the first day because people they didn't care about the price, that people wanted that book in their hands, to be able to flip through the photos of the classic cars that were in it and then be able to show it to their friends. And know your audience, is your audience a Kindle audience or is your audience a print book audience? And today it's so easy to give them both.
Oh, I think it's necessary to give them both.
Yep.
But I don't think that it's appropriate to pick one instead of the other.
Right.
Because I think then you're losing
an audience.
A huge part of your audience. I've told you in some of our correspondence that I'm rather a dinosaur, and so I refer to the old days a lot. Mm-hmm. And the whole Kindle ebook situation is still pretty new to me, but it's pretty exciting when people will stop me and say, "Oh, I downloaded your book." Now, what you said was kind of interesting because I didn't realize that you could do. Now, Kindle itself doesn't support color, does it? It's got to be the Kindle Fire, right?
It's got to be the Kindle Fire and the Barnes & Noble Nook. They both support color. And is there a tremendous difference in price between that and just black and white? The Kindle black and whites are a little bit less expensive, but let's face it, a Kindle Fire is $200.
No, I'm not talking about the hardware. I'm talking about the preparation for the book.
Oh, no, and I actually came up with a workflow, because, again, I'm a photographer, so I have high-resolution images. And Kindle has a size limit on the size of their manuscripts so that, you can't take up all the space on somebody's Kindle with just your book. Right? And we're still talking about display versus print quality. So at first, I was making the books, and you make them in a Word document and you can compress the images. And I was doing that and not saving a copy of the master, or I was doing it as I was going along, and I hadn't started doing the CreateSpace thing yet. So I was resizing my images to be smaller, and I was using the smaller images, and I didn't put them in their own folder, and I was very disorganized, but I was getting books up on the Kindle, and people were loving them. And then I'm like, okay, now I want to do a print copy. Oh, now I got to go find all the pictures all over again and put the high-res copy into the CreateSpace manuscript. Now, if you're working with images, and one of the reasons I'm elaborating on this is that some folks have talked to me about this in past that are like, they're an artist that wants to maybe put their art in a book, or they're photographers, or they're illustrators, or whatever. What you do is you create your document in Word, and you save it as a docx. and you're not going to upload the docx to anywhere. However, what you're going to do with the docx, docx, is you're going to put all your high resolution images. You're gonna format this as at first you're just going to format it like you are for the Kindle, which means hardly any formatting, because Kindle is just like a website where it's just going to flow and they can adjust the size if they want. You know, you're not going to always keep your text on the same page as your image, because people can adjust all those things within their e-reader. But on your CreateSpace book, you have that control. So you create the document as a docx with all of your master images and all of your, your nice font. And then you're going to save it as your dash CreateSpace version or a master. And then you're going to take and you're going to go back into Microsoft Word and you're going to click on the button that says reduce file size. And then that's going to compress all of your images to, you can pick 220 DPI or 120 or 92. The lowest you ever want to go is 90. It's 96, not 92. But you can compress it to 220 and then see if your file size is okay. Then you go ahead and save that as your dot. You convert it to .doc without the X at the end, and that becomes your Kindle version. And then you can go back, you can upload the Kindle version, put your cover up, all that good stuff. And then you go to CreateSpace and you look back at your document and you switch things around a little bit. You know, on an ebook, you want certain things to be in the front, but on a print book, you want other things to be in the front and different things to be at the end. And you take that master and you upload it to CreateSpace, and then they have this wonderful previewer that will show you exactly how your book is laid out.
Wow. You know, you see, Deborah, you have just, shoot. I'm going to, sorry, can't talk, bye. I got to tell you something. My phone never rings.
Nice. We have a friend
you have just illustrated, you've just made my point about leaving certain things to the people who know what they're doing.
Right.
Because even though in listening to you talk, I recognized all those words as English.
Yeah.
What I was hearing was wow, wow, wow. You know? I mean, I don't have a clue.
Right.
But my designer would.
Yeah.
You know, my designer would understand what you just said. And I think I'm just going to stay with black and white.
Yeah, and for your purposes, black and white is fine because people are used to medical books being in black and white.
Right.
And that's not an issue. And, you know, you can be read across all the different readers. And, you know, none of those readers are being retired. And some of the Kindles that are only black and white are bigger than the Kindle Fire. And, you know, people can adjust whatever they need to adjust, and you're, I'm assuming you have mostly illustrations or photos that were black and white to begin with. So
yeah, we didn't use illustrations at all.
Okay.
We just have, you know, just little icons, you know, throughout just to make it a little bit interesting.
Okay.
But, you know, we had to make the decision whether we were going to illustrate and do charts and do, you know, and we decided against it. So this is, you know, strictly conversations that you would, you know, have with somebody, with a doctor. Mm-hmm. And that's why we went that route. But, you know, another thing that I think that is important to bring up when it comes to independent publishing is whether or not you're going to go print on demand,
right,
or whether you're going to print a quantity and go through a distributor.
Right.
You know, to become a little publisher and to go to one of the houses that distributes into the print marketplace and you know, be a little publisher.
Yep.
You know, Simon & Schuster, only smaller. And the problem is, and the reason that we made the decision to do it the way we did, is that, as I'm sure your listeners are well aware, in the publishing industry, unlike elsewhere in retail, books are 100% returnable.
Yep.
And if they do not sell in a period of time, they come back to you and you put them between two pieces of rye bread and have lunch. And, there was no other way to do it back in the day, as my kid likes to put it. And you were stuck doing it. Then you go back to the whole idea of, they're in the garage, and then you send them out, you send them to the distributor, they have them in their warehouse, and the costs start adding up, and what you get as a return is very small, very limited, and it'll probably cost way more money than you'll ever make on the books.
Right. Which is fine for the doctor, because he'll get a lot more surgeries. Not so great for you.
I don't worry about the doctor, let me tell you.
Yeah, exactly.
But it is not possible for me to get into those kinds of costs. So and I'm half this equation. Yeah. So I consulted with the heavy hitters in publishing that I've been friends with for many years. And one of them, who's probably the smartest guy who's ever been in publishing, said, "Do you have an author, meaning the doctor,
right,
who has the time and inclination to tour for the book, to put a lot of time into promoting the book?" And I said, "Actually, no. I mean, he doesn't have that kind of time." And he said, "Then do it this way. Do it print on demand, and promote the hell out of it the way you know how to do, and see what happens." And that's exactly what we're in the midst of doing right now.
Okay.
We're promoting the book on something that I usually call the drip theory. Rather than go into a huge launch or a huge blitz, I get out there and I do a little of this and I do a little of that, and we do a little TV and we do a little internet and I do a little press release. And I get the word out in any way that I can think to do it. The old way and the new way.
Yep. Well, and there's another interesting point is that, you still read about book launches, and I still hear people talk about book launches. Well, to me, the book launch is when I click publish on KDP.
Exactly.
So, and then I go put that book up on all my websites, and I send an email to people that are on my mailing lists or whatever. But there's no party, there's no book signing, there's no, brass band. It's launched as soon as I hit the button and say it's launched.
I just had a meeting with an author who I will probably be doing some work with in the future. Who launched a book through social media, and with all the words I still that are still fuzzy for me, the search engine optimization and all of that kind of stuff. And I got to tell you, I don't tweet. I have Facebook, but I don't tweet. And this gal put together, or somebody actually did it for her, put together a launch that actually went so viral. It was, they estimated 10 million people saw the announcement of this new book. Well, I'm going, 10 million people, oh my God. And even if you work backwards to say, what kind of percentage would actually go and buy the book, even if it was minuscule, it's going to be a ton of books.
Yep.
Well, she got I was very surprised to see she got a good Amazon ranking. You could see the movement there. But what you can't do is count the books.
Right.
You don't know how many books that represents.
Right.
I once did a press release distribution for a book, and the guy went on Amazon from 947,000 up to I think his last ranking was like 37. I mean, he just zoomed right up for a day.
Yep.
And I said, "Oh God, how many books that must mean?" It was something like 9.
Yep. Yep, and then the next day he dropped back down into the 600,000s.
Oh, yeah.
So, when...
you just can't quantify it.
No.
So while social media is important to know about and important to do or to have somebody do on your behalf, and you know that you're going to have a lot of eyes on your subject, you can't, they haven't told me yet, to my satisfaction, what's the return on it?
Right.
What's the return? How many books can you sell? Again, and I hate to start the sentences with, way back when or in the old days. But when I started in publishing, if you've got a positive library journal review, there was 1,000 books right then and there you could count on.
Okay.
Good library journal review, boom, 1,000 books. Because everybody would order them.
Yep.
And there is none of that these days.
No.
There's nothing that you can point to or count on, or, everybody has the answer. Well, there is no the answer.
Yep. And to your point about not being able to quantify it, if you go exclusive on Kindle with their KDP program, you can give away your book for free. And I know people that gave away for free over 10,000 copies of their book in a 2 or 3 day period. Right. And again, that affects your rankings for about a week, and it keeps you up there, but it doesn't translate into the number of sales you would expect it to translate into. And the rankings drop back off, but you get reviews and that sort of thing. But again, even if doing a virtual book launch is not like in the old days doing a launch. And there are a lot of people that don't know how to do that anymore anyway. You put it out to your social media, and like you said, she put it out to 10 million people. Well, how many of those people were actually people interested in going to look at the book, and how many were just people that it went through their stream so quickly because they're following so many other people that they didn't actually really see it. Right. It went out to that many people, but how many of those people actually caught the tweet as it was going through? I haven't been on Twitter all day. I don't know what's been said during the day unless someone sends me a direct message or an app message. I don't know what's going on, and I don't have the time to go scrolling back and find out. So you've got to hit people. And in your case, with this particular book, that isn't something that necessarily would go viral on social media and get you people who are going to buy it, because you're going after a very specific slice of the population, and a lot of them may not want to share the fact that they're thinking about getting a weight loss surgery done. So they may read your book and love it, but they might just keep it to themselves because they're a little shy about discussing the subject in public.
Yeah, that's true. I guess I never was, so.
Right. Well, and it depends. It depends.
I think that's what makes horse races, as they say.
Yeah, I mean, Gene Simmons' wife, Shannon and her sister went in and got plastic surgery together, and Gene and Shannon went and got plastic surgery together. So everybody knows they had plastic surgery. And then there's other people that, hope that you don't notice that they had plastic surgery. They just tucked it up and, won't make a big deal out of it. So, I mean, it's the same kind of thing when you're dealing with people's body image and, their outward appearance. Some people are a little shy about how they got to be where they are.
Yeah, you have a very good point. Well, we're just trying to give some information that hasn't been out there before in this format, hasn't been made so easy and so accessible. And so that's why we made the choices that we made, so that it's very easy for readers to just look up the questions that they want to have answered. They can either thumb through the book, or they're listed in the back, or they're separated by section, and you can find out what this very bright, very able, well-known doctor has to say about it. And as I said, as if you're just sitting across from him, having an iced tea,
Mm-hmm.
which is what I did for about a year. So, so we're very pleased at the result, which would not have happened if we hadn't chosen to go the independent route.
Yep. All right. Well, I think we talked about quite a lot to keep our listeners, give them a lot to think about. Where can people find your website? You said you don't do Twitter, but you do Facebook. But where's your main place that people can find you on the internet?
They can find us at WEIGHTYISSUESbook.com.
Okay. And did you put up a site for your little publishing company?
No, that's part of all the same thing.
Okay. Weighty Issues.
WEIGHTYISSUESbook.com.
WEIGHTYISSUESbook.com.
And they will get all the information that they could possibly want, and probably some they don't.
Which is a good part of the point of the book.
And then the book is available either through the site or on Amazon and Barnes & Noble and places like that. I understand Google Books and a couple of other places, but Amazon and Barnes & Noble are the main places.
Okay, awesome. Well, I want to thank you for joining us and sharing all of your wonderful information. And for those of you who are listening to us on iTunes or through a podcatcher and you haven't actually been to our website, we'd like to invite you to come to BookGoodies.com, BookGoodies.com, and also you can follow us on Twitter.com/BookGoodies and Facebook.com/BookGoodies.
Another good title, by the way, BookGoodies. That's fabulous.
Thank you. And we would love for you to come to the site and do a search for Nancy, and you will find her interview. And you can leave comments. You can tell us if you bought the book or if you think it was a great idea for a book, or anything that you want. And also, we'd love it if you would fill out be a guest on our podcast form. We have a contact us form up there, and also a link where you can tell us about your book. And we'll put that up on the site. And all those things are at no charge. We want to get indie published books out there. All the good ones where people can find them, so we outweigh some of the not so great ones. I want to thank everybody for listening, and thanks again to Geekcast.fm, which hosts our our podcasts and has lots of really neat stuff, really neat podcasts, and even some video casts about internet marketing in general. So thanks everybody, get writing, and have a great day.